So we're at a point where we have gridlock that is increasing, we'll say, in most cities in Canada, North America, and elsewhere. We have an aging infrastructure, which is in dire need of repair, but it comes at a time where we maybe don't have the financial means to replace it or to add to it. One of the interesting developments more lately has been around social media, and we can almost think of social media as another sensor. And it collects information from users, and it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One way is that it allows us to look at the people moving rather than just the vehicles. So in fact, we're not so much interested in the flow of vehicles, but the flow of people, and not the flow of trucks, but the flow of goods within those trucks. And if we have better information about that, then perhaps we're a little bit further ahead. So I think that's one of the interests of social media. And the other, of course, is that it provides a channel for citizens to communicate back to authorities what they believe their priorities should be.
People are very concerned about the congestion challenge that we have in this region. It's one of the highest of any city in North America at 82 minutes, and it's growing. The reason it's growing is because our population is growing. So we know that 100,000 immigrants are coming into this region each and every year, and we have to find a way of integrating them into our communities, our neighborhoods, into our labor markets, and really into our society. People want time with their families. They want time to walk their pets. I mean, it's just really everyday things, but so the cost is not just the economic cost, but it's also the health and quality of life cost as well.
The approach that we're advocating is one in which requires community involvement and collaboration in terms of the usage of a limited resource. So initially, we're not even talking about a huge amount of additional infrastructure, but there's different tiers of infrastructure introduction, if you will, and these can be orchestrated in such a way that you're not just following the ordinary cycle of growth and increased demand and so forth. And so there's an opportunity for, if there's enough participants, if you put out an app, okay, that's not necessarily sponsored by a government agency or whatever, but that's run in a fair, transparent way, that the community sees a benefit from. If you get enough participation, you can get benefits in terms of coordinating your travel.
But what's important is that people have other choice. If there was only that road that people could take, then that would, obviously not be fair, because unless you had the means to pay, you wouldn't be able to move around. So we have to ensure that people have the opportunity to find an alternative. And I think that that's, a lot of what we're talking about here we need to do, and we need to do those things that are definitely we can do them immediately, they're low cost, and there's a tremendous upside. But what the reality that we're facing in our GTHA context is that we haven't built the alternatives, particularly on the transit side, and people need to be able to get all around this region, and we need a fully connected and integrated region so that they can make alternate decisions and not drive but take a transit system, or not take a transit system. They can cycle or they can walk. We have to give people that choice of moving around.
IBM and Veolia are working on an application, intermodal application in Lyon in France, where the idea is you put your trip in, it gives you options. So driving, here's your option, here's where you would park, here's train, here's public transit, and it will say, so if you're driving, you should leave in an hour. If there's an incident during that hour that changes somehow the time it should take you to get there, it'll alert you and say your options have now changed. We recommend that you now drive to the closest train station and take the train, and that's your best option at this point, but you could still make the trade-offs. And a lot of the a lot of the complication, but a lot of the opportunity is in that intermodal space, because we're used to thinking of all these modes relatively independently, but in real life, I mean, you may want to take your car to the train station, or your bike somewhere to the subway, and then take your bike with you downtown. So there are a few different options, and starting to integrate all these modes is complicated, but might open some other opportunities.